Miscellaneous minds, never explaining the minds. Devilish grin for my alias, aliens who respond. Peddling sin, thinking maybe when you get old you realize I'm not gonna fold or demise. I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Miscellaneous Minds podcast. I'm your co-host, Puma El Gato, the cat that gives you your balance back. And to my right over here is the main man, Jesus De Niro, the man that makes the fat stacks. Together we form the dynamic duo that won't die. Deadlier than the Diaz brothers and spicier content than your girls' only fans. Brother, what are we talking about this week?
This week we're going to be talking a little bit about balance, my man. We're going to talk about a lot of things that have happened recently. Specifically, we're going to talk about different content creators out there like Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, Jordan Peterson, Derek Jackson, different types of things. And bring to you why we need to bring balance to these topics, because these people are hijacking the narrative, and we need to discuss why they're hijacking the narrative and why not only is it bad for the narrative, but why people at large are using the fact that these people are hijacking the narrative as a way to discredit the actual good points. So let's jump right into it. See, look, the problem with people like Andrew Tate, with people like Jordan Peterson, Fresh and Fit, is that they take a kernel of truth of what's going on around in the world, and they use it to push their narrative about. I mean, I'm gonna just call it, what it is. People like Andrew Tate, basically. I mean, it's on recording, so don't even, take my word for it. Go out there and find it yourselves. Where they're basically saying that women are trash in comparison to men, that men are superior, so on and so forth, blah 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 blah. Listen, there's a kernel of truth to the things that they say, but then they use it to spread all this other bullshit, and that's where I start to have a problem with it. For example, men really are out here suffering. Recent studies have shown that men are disaffected when it comes to college, when it comes to job profession, when it comes to overall earnings, when it comes to things like, for example, how men's mental health is treated, how we're viewed on in domestic violence situations, so on and so forth. Men are truly suffering in this. And it's not even just our opinion. It's truly the opinion of the experts that are out there doing these studies. They're saying, yes, men are in fact suffering in these areas, the areas of family law, the areas of, college, the amount of males that are in college is dropping a significant amount. Our career earnings are dropping a significant amount. There's a number of things where we're being affected as men. And the problem with that is that because these individuals who have nefarious intentions say, oh, men are suffering, and they're suffering, and because of suffering, this is what we need to do, and then they, put in all their nefarious means, it becomes an issue because they're using a true narrative, men are suffering, and then they're pushing their own bullshit. They're all, women are inferior, we need to be at the top of the, food chain, blah, 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 like all this type of stuff. I have my own opinions about these individuals, but the problem is that, again, they're hijacking the narrative being men are suffering, and then, different lists of things where men are suffering, and that's the problem, is that because they have nefarious intent, they have their own, they want to make money, they want to feel superior, they are trying to, bamboozle motherfuckers out here. Like, they're using the true narrative of men are suffering to push their own propaganda, their own agenda, their own bullshit on it. So what do you think about that, my man?
I wanted to talk primarily about Jordan Peterson and like the rise of him trying to help out these disillusioned individuals, more particularly. He's been called the king of incels, and to an extent he does kind of wear that moniker a little bit with pride, in the sense that he's trying to help out disillusioned men and whatever. My problem with that is that there is some stuff that he tries to hide in between the lines, and he said, yes, witches are real, witches are out there, which is him basically trying to say something to the effect of, in like a kind of cutesy way, like replace witches with the letter B. Like, that's basically what he's trying to say, in that women are inherently greedy and mistrustful. And look, I don't necessarily believe any of that. Unfortunately, the part that I do believe that he does say is that there's a lot more disillusioned men out there, more particularly called incels, of which he is the king of. And unfortunately, that's one of those things that if you don't address it, it's only going to get worse from here on out. And it's one of those things where he's being demonized, but he's being demonized for the men being treated like incels thing, and not so for the women's thing. And I understand he should be demonized for the women's thing, but unfortunately, because he's so closely connected to the incel movement, or even helping disillusioned young men or whatever, then unfortunately the waters get muddied, and it looks like they're attacking him, trying to help out disillusioned young men, which that was the crux of his book, The 12 Rules.
I wanted to chime in on that a little bit, my brother. See, here's the thing, is that I have plenty of friends. Again, socially, I usually lean liberal. Socially, I'm on the left. And I have a lot of friends similar, the males that are basically saying the same thing. It's like, look, we feel disillusioned with the left. We feel like we don't have a political home, so to speak. It's troubling because they're attacking him as a person for the things that he does, and with that, they're attacking the movement of these people that feel disillusioned. I agree with you. The fact that he carries that moniker of king of the incels on his back, he's basically saying, you, this whole generation of disillusioned individuals, come on my back, I will carry you. And the problem with that is that when you disillusion him, you disillusion the movement. So it's a problematic because you're saying, because you, Jordan Peterson, are invalid, the whole movement is invalid. And that's not true. See, that's the thing, is like a lot of men out here are feeling disillusioned because, again, much like myself, where, we may lean liberal, we may agree with women's rights, we may agree with minority suffering, we may agree with a lot of these things that are considered left policies. The problem is that we don't feel home because we're being told, oh, okay, well, you're part of the patriarchy, you're also part of the problem. And it's an issue because saying simply because you're a man is you're part of the problem, that doesn't want me to agree with you. In fact, you're pushing me into a group that I don't want to be part of. I don't want to be part of the king of the incels. I don't want to be part of the Andrew Tate alpha males. I don't want to be part of these groups, but unfortunately, you're pushing me more and more to the point where unfortunately, I have to I have to find a political home. And even though I don't agree with these people, I agree with some of the talking points, some of the kernel of truth that they have, and that makes it a problem for the rest of us because we don't want to be on their side. But unfortunately, they're addressing an issue that the left isn't addressing.
And I wanted to point this out with something that was happening, particularly in Hollywood, especially with what was happening with James Cameron before the release of Avatar 2, where James Cameron said something to the extent of testosterone is a poison that needs to be expelled out of the body, which biologically speaking, that's not even remotely close.
Stupid fucking comment.
Whatever. But the fact that he supposedly deleted about, I want to say it was at least 30 minutes of content within Avatar 2 because most of it did contain guns and did contain violence, and he didn't want to be tied to sensationalizing violence within Hollywood, even though he was the director of Terminator 2. Whatever. But I want to tie that to why people are locking into Andrew Tate. Now, keep in mind, I am no way endorsing Andrew Tate's way of life. Andrew Tate as a character. I'm not endorsing Andrew Tate in any way. But you cannot ignore why young men are drawn to him, because with the amount of masculinity shaming, testosterone shaming, whatever you want to call it, that's been going on in the media, saying that men are the problem, men are the demon, all this stuff, with what Andrew Tate gives off to these young men, where he's, super muscular, accomplished kickboxer. He has like all these cars, all these women. You can't deny people are drawn to him for a reason. Unfortunately, that has a very bad case with what's going on right now with his arrest. But to simply say, oh, people are drawn to him because he's toxic, it's like, no, they're not. I mean, yes, he does have toxic beliefs, but you can't deny there is one thing that did draw people to him, and that's what people saw as exuding masculinity. Granted, you saw examples with Greta Thunberg and him authoring. I wouldn't say that's fucking alpha, but you do kind of see what people attracted people to him.
Let me jump in on that, my man. So here's the thing. He's speaking to a group that feels like nobody is speaking to them. And that's the problem, is that the left has virtually ignored, young men. Young men are being told, hey, man, again, just like James Cameron and all that. Oh, you're the problem because you have testosterone. You're the problem because you're oppressing women. You're the problem because this. Like, it's all bullshit. Like, look, listen. It was very recently that Vosh is actually the one that came out. And everybody knows Vosh is a fucking lefty. He's like the definition of a lefty. And the thing is, he came out and said is that, boys are not inherently fascist. They're not inherently sexist towards women. It's just that the left isn't catering any message towards it. And he says, look, as in the left, we cater to almost everybody. We cater to black people. We cater to Latinos. We cater to women. We cater to gays. We cater to everybody. But we don't cater to men. And that's true. Again, as a man who, and again, I lean left. As a man on the left, it seems like we're ignored. It seems like we're we're being tossed aside. Now, some people will say, especially the radical feminists will say, well, what do you want us to cater to? You have everything, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go into a topic next week about this exact issue. But the problem is like, no, I don't, me as a man, I'm not catered to in the sense of like, I don't have the perfect life by no means. You know what I mean? I don't have some easy train, some fast track to success. I've had to struggle for everything in my life. I mean, me personally, I had to pay just to be in this country. And I'm not talking about like some, offhand, like, no, I literally had to pay to be allowed just to walk around like a lot of you people, a lot of you white ladies, a lot of you feminists that got the free liberty to be here without any sort of issues. So we need to start opening up these channels and start seeing that it's not simply just the patriarchy or these types of issues that just because I'm a man, I automatically get all these benefits. It's not true. And see, that's the thing is Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, a lot of other people, Just Pearly, things like they're speaking to an audience that they're being left behind. Every other audience is being catered to except this one audience. And the problem is that how do you expect this audience that you're constantly telling, you're the problem, you're the problem, you're the problem, simply because they were born male? Like, you're telling them they're the problem. How can you expect them to want to stand up for rights, for women's rights, for feminist rights, for any, for anything on the left? Because again, you're putting them in the box and saying, get the hell out. So, going back to the Vosh thing, so Vosh brought up the issue that, again, it's not that boys are inherently fascist or inherently sexist, blah, blah, blah. It's just that, the left's not catering to them. And I'll be honest with you, I'll give props to someone that I'm not going to lie, I had a really big problem with because of the way that she was addressing these issues. Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks, for a while there was just basically saying to men, as far as, because I watched their videos quite frequently, and was constantly basically just saying to men, oh, stop crying, basically, not in these exact words, but basically saying, oh, stop crying, you're a man, you have a good blah, blah, blah. And even she recently said, hey, look, I've seen the studies, and yeah, men are being left behind in a number of avenues. So, shout out to her for finally coming to the side and saying, look, it's not about us wanting more rights than women. It's not about us saying we deserve more. It's not about us trying to maintain our power structure. None of that, man. It's just, we just don't want to be left behind when everybody else is getting, if again, we'll use men's mental health as an example. Men are 6 times more likely to commit suicide than women are. And you never hear this narrative out in the general public, and part of the reason is because, again, we're being left behind.
Another statistic I wanted to put out there that was skewed in the way of helping women's mental health out was that women in 1 in 4 homeless people tend to be women, and it basically describes, okay, so 3 of the 4 of those are men. How come we're not talking about that, even though many of the homeless people that I see are all mostly men?
Yeah, if you go here into downtown Phoenix, if you go down there to by where the courts are and everything, you'll see, most of the people out there, there's a big homeless camp out there. Most of the people out there, they're men. And here's the thing, again, there's a number of these issues like this that comes up where men are many times more affected by these issues, but it's not being talked about. And the only reason it's not being talked about is because, men, if it's children, it gets talked about. If it's women, it gets talked about. But if it's men or not, and again, I'm not saying, hey, we deserve more rights, give us pity, blah. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, hey, let us have a conversation about our issues as well.
Another thing I wanted to talk about too, and it was, I don't know if I brought it up on here, but there was a discussion that was held on Piers Morgan's show, and they had two feminist people that they were interviewing, and one MGTOW person, and they started talking about in regards to the Aziz Ansari story. And for a little bit of a recap in case I didn't do it before, but Aziz Ansari had a date with this young lady. I think she might have been a production assistant or something like that. And they had a date, got a little awkward, not in like a bad way, but they weren't really clicking all that well. And they did some kissing, and she decided she wasn't like really a fan of that, whatever. And she told him, hey, this feels a little awkward. I'm just going to go. And he's like, all right, cool. And then she decided afterwards, like, yeah, I felt kind of raped by the experience. To which a lot of people started blacklisting Aziz Ansari for that, until people like got wind of the story and realized, okay, nothing really happened. They just had an uncomfortable evening and just went home. And Piers Morgan asked them, like, do you think the Me Too movement has gone too far in regards to reactions from people that were wanting to cancel all these people and yada yada? And they said, yes, it might have gone a bit too far, especially in the Aziz Ansari situation. And then Piers Morgan asked a follow-up, do you think we'd want to tone it down? And she was like, absolutely not. And Piers Morgan went on to ask, like, do you think maybe you're scaring all these young men in the event that they would want to approach a woman? Like, do you think it's gonna affect the relationship with women going forward. And one of the feminists said, yes, I want them to be afraid, which is, it's not going to go down the way you think it is. It's only going to drive division forward if you're asking for more fear coming from that other side.
And, you know, T, that's one of the issues that I have with this is that, I'll be honest with you, man, as a man, you know, it seems like you have to protect yourself at every angle. Now, I know that seems funny because for a lot of women, they'll say, oh, we have to protect ourselves at every angle. We can't even walk outside. Hey, fair. That's a fair argument. I understand that women, you know, do have a lot of these issues that unfortunately I'll never be able to understand because I'm a man. I respect that. With that being said, if you have feminists out here saying, yeah, I want men to be afraid of approaching a woman, you know, even if it's, again, just for like a date, asking out, you know, something like that, that's a problem. That's a problem because, like, I hate to tell you guys this, including feminists, but, you know, the whole narrative of we women carry the human race moving forward, that's fine. I agree. You guys give birth, but you need a seed. You need the man. This is a 50-50 scenario. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you know, you contribute. You know, there's all those jokes. Oh, you contribute 2 minutes and a woman, you know, 9 months. Fair, you know, whatever. But I'm saying you can't have one without the other. And that's the problem is that, especially like, again, to me, it's not even the everyday feminine. It's the radical people. It's the radical feminists, the people that take this shit too far. Like, I've seen a couple different things where women say that if they have, and again, this is the radical part, if they have a boy child, they're not going to breastfeed it because they're only going to breastfeed their baby girl because the baby girl needs a lift up and the man should be brought down from birth. That way, you know, it balances out, so to speak. It's fucking insane, bro. Imagine telling a baby child, or imagine telling the world, I'm not going to take care of my boy, my baby boy, as much as I'm going to take my baby girl because she needs a leg up and he doesn't. That's bullshit.
So in regards to that feminist saying she wants young men these days to be afraid, and with all these people saying that incels are a big problem, and the fact that incels have been afraid of approaching women, by their account, afraid of approaching women or whatever, it's only going to have the opposite effect. And I'm going to be quoting Star Wars here, but fear only leads to anger, and anger only leads to more hate. If your problem is having all these incels, I was like, oh, they're a bunch of women hating, women bashing. I was like, cool, that is a problem. We do need to address that. I do understand the need for the Me Too movement. However, it's gone to such a devastating length that now they're talking about, oh, men should be afraid. I was like, you're only going to be creating more incels by that. Am I saying give them anything? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. But for you to be out here saying, oh, I want men to be afraid, you're only going to create more incels, not less.
And here's the problem with that. By you, especially the radical feminists, doing that, you're giving people like Andrew Tate power. Like, think about it. If, again, going right back to what we were saying a second ago, if you're saying simply because you are a man, you are a problem, when another person comes by and says, hey, the fact that you're not, you know, the fact that you're a man, that's not a problem. You should embrace it. It should be your power. It should be this, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're creating the Andrew Tates of the world by having that. And that's, you know, a perfect example of what he said when, you know, when you create fear, you create anger. This is a perfect way. Like, if a young man is afraid to approach a woman because he's afraid that he's going to get hit with sexual assault allegations, or, you know, he should fear a woman because she's stronger than him, you know, whatever, all the stupid shit that radical feminists say, it makes it hard because then when Andrew Tate 2.0, whoever the fuck the next Andrew Tate comes by and tells that young man, hey, look, she's wrong, you're right, simply because you're a man, you're creating that by being that type of person from the get-go. You're creating the Andrew Tates, you're creating the Jordan Petersons, you're creating the Fresh and Fits of the world, like all these motherfuckers. And that's the problem, is that you guys just don't understand that, like, just having that mentality going in as I want men to be afraid, that's exactly why men don't speak about these issues, and that's exactly why they turn to people like Andrew Tate, who does address them. You know, I know we were going to talk about this, the issue of Derek Jackson. I'm going to let my man here use his examples, kind of to why that was a little bit of an issue, but I'm going to kind of give my own diagnosis just a little bit here for a second. So, as a lot of you know, especially if you guys are women, Derek Jackson was this man basically telling women, you can do no wrong, and the man does everything wrong. And then come to find out the man's out here cheating multiple times, you know, basically everything that he was telling women was a bullshit lie. That's a perfect example of why we can't have just this one-sided narrative on each side, where whether it's a man or a woman telling a man you're completely wrong and the women are completely right, or the reverse, where a woman is telling a man, hey, because you're a man, you're completely right and she's completely wrong. We can't have that. We need to have an even, honest conversation about these issues. And so, is there anything else that you want to add on that, my man?
No, I think that's it for me, brother.
All right, my man. So, like I said, we're going to be discussing a couple more topics that are directly related to this very soon, actually. And we just want to touch on this because, look, we can't let these type of people control the narrative, because if they control the narrative, then not only do they bring down the movement, but then it creates more hate on the other side, and then their hate creates more hate on this side. So we need to start working towards doing better job at controlling these narratives with the right people, and not these people that make everything hyperbolic and then make everything about us, men against women or women against men, so on and so forth. So don't get me wrong, I think both sides have a kernel of truth to them. Even on the radical side, there's a kernel of truth to the things that they say, but they use that kernel of truth to spread it across the board and make every single one of their points right. Just because they were right on point A doesn't mean they're right on point B, but that's what they try to do. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, hate, subscribe, DM me about the bullshit, all that good stuff. And with that being said,
until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you on the next one.